At the end of 2025, Pimax offered me to send one of their headsets for me to review, but the only problem was my PC was not quite good enough for VR. So I had to get this beast both for VR and to improve my content creation abilities. Hey guys, Emil's here, and today I will walk you through how I chose my parts, what were my needs, and how it performs, especially in DCS World. Alright, let's get into it. So, as I mentioned previously, one of the requirements was for it to be able to run VR. The minimum was a 12th gen Intel CPU and an RTX 40 series card. For the CPU, I decided to go with the Intel Core Ultra 5 225 because of the price. I know that AMD has been cooking for the past couple of years, but since my budget was quite strict, price won me over. Plus, and we will find out later, it is good enough for most of my needs. We have 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM before the prices more than tripled, and two NVMe SSDs, one WD SN850X 1TB for the system, and a 2TB SSD for DCS, Falcon, and other games and programs. I will leave all the parts in the description as well if you're interested. For the GPU, I went with the NVIDIA RTX 5070. I think it struck a good balance of price to performance. I really enjoyed building a PC again after such a long time. The last one I built was like pre-COVID with an AMD Ryzen 5 3600. That thing still rocks. While the case did give me some difficulties with the standoffs and putting the motherboard in, after that was done, it was just putting together Lego pieces. Of course, I triple check everything so nothing blows up when I turn it on, and since we are here, it didn't. And I have to say, for a cheap case, it does look pretty nice. Okay, I think that's enough about the build. Let's talk about how it performs. So the major thing I needed to do are run the DCS World on 1440p and in VR, good enough for video recording during gameplay, video editing, animation, and some photo editing. Now, I was blown away with the video editing part. I used DaVinci Resolve because its base version is free and amazing, and editing off my fast SSDs was very smooth. But what really surprised me was the export. Exporting a 10-minute video in 1440p took around 3 minutes. That's absolutely epic since I usually go on my phone to check statistics or messages while exporting, but the first time I was surprised to find the video was already exported. Usually it took like 10 or even more than 10 minutes. For my recording that I do at 60 FPS, I can crank the game pretty much fully. Here are my settings if you're interested. Of course, this can vary. In Cold War Germany, flying low, it might be best to turn down some of the graphic settings, but overall it is a very good experience and you get some very nice looking videos because of it. Now, if we turn the settings down a bit, I can reach my monitor's 165Hz refresh rate, and the game doesn't even look that much worse. Editing Emil's here, and I just wanted to note that the performance here is a bit worse than I described since I usually record at 30 FPS, but this time I was recording at 60 FPS. Also, having open my 100 Chrome tabs probably has some effect as well. And if I'm not recording, then the FPS is as I described and stable. Same goes for the VR footage you will see later. Might be a good time to mention that I'm running on widescreen display, 3440 pixels by 1440. So a bit more than 1440p, and it does require more resources than a 16 by 9 1440p monitor would need. I'm very pleased with this performance, and my gaming experience has never been so smooth. And looking at the CPU usage, it seems like we are not limited, though maybe we should have sprung for 64 gigabytes of RAM. Now we get to VR, a much bigger challenge, especially with a headset like the Pimax Crystal Super. Not because it's bad, actually because it's that good. It pretty much has a 4K display for each eye and 72 to 90Hz refresh rate, which would be important to achieve to have a good VR experience. If you want to check out their headsets, I will leave a link in the description. With a 5070, I had to select 72Hz upscale in the Pimax settings and adjust the quality to 0.9. But I'm not saying this is perfect, I just didn't want to mess around with it anymore. In the game, these are my settings, and in most cases I can get the 72 FPS needed, and I would like to say that the game doesn't look bad, especially in VR since that adds extra depth and the immersion helps mask more of the imperfections. At least that is my case. The GPU is running almost at full usage and the VRAM is maxed out. Mostly it is a very nice and stable experience, but of course Cold War Germany and heavily populated multiplayer servers could run a bit differently, but that could also be due to other factors. The Phantom is also a more challenging aircraft to run. I hope this gives some insight into how I made the PC that gives you the content on this channel. I am always trying to improve quality where I can, and now we have pretty much maxed out the visual quality. Now it's just time to learn new skills. But also, don't be discouraged. Sure, this is how I play DCS, but I also record, stream, and have many programs running in parallel to get everything I need to work. If you just want to learn to fly a plane and have fun in DCS, you don't need a top of the line rig. But I would say something with DLSS would be preferable. I have run DCS on a GTX 1050, though that was a bit challenging. Anyway, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and we could maybe even do a part 2 where I would answer the most asked questions. Alright, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!